It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
All right, Rich-Casanova here alongside
Craig Williams.
And, man, we have this one locked and loaded, right?
Yes, we do. With the weather in tow.
I'm telling you. And we always brag about our $1 million view here in the Buckhead studios.
It's
and,
appreciating, too, as we speak, man.
Literally, yeah. I just got that one, yeah. So this is the Buckhead Business Show every Tuesday morning at 10 here from our Pro Business Channel studios. And let's kind of jump right in, and let's start off with introducing our guest joining us here in the studio, and Mark Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good to be here. Thanks.
We've known each other for, how many years now?
Well, probably 10, 12 years.
Yeah. A couple of former lives in business ventures. And
yes.
So give us a little teaser what you might be chatting about with our audience this morning.
I'm going to be talking about the largest crime and fastest growing crime in the world, and that's identity fraud and identity theft.
All right. So that's a cliffhanger right there, man.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Especially after that 60 Minutes episode they had this weekend. Man.
Yeah.
How they hack into our phones and,
Yeah.
geez. Yeah.
And is this emphasis on personal or commercial or business or?
I'm going to be talking specifically about personal, which
Okay.
affects all three
The
of what
ripple
we just
effect of that,
mentioned.
yeah.
That's right.
Because if your employees are hacked and,
That's right.
Okay. All right, so stay tuned for Mark's segment coming up here shortly. Also joining us in the studio is Karen Cat Ellis. And we have a mutual friend. We've known each other, our friend Montina Porras. A shout out to her.
Yes, hi, Montina.
I don't know, do they still do that shout out?
Yeah, of course. That's a timeless.
And so what will you be talking about this morning?
I'm going to be talking about video marketing and the benefits for lawyers.
So that should grab some ears. We do Atlanta Legal Experts, which Montina's been on several times, and we just had that show this morning. So I know the law folks are going to be tuning in and taking notes about all the. You're going to give some secret tips on marketing?
I'm going to
Video
talk
marketing.
about our secret sauce, but I'm
Okay.
not going to give it away.
Nice. Yeah, she didn't just start this project yesterday. Yeah. All right, so stay tuned, and thanks for joining us here in the studio. Our first guest joining us on the Buckhead Business Show is Stephanie Anderson. And Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And you didn't have too far to travel, right?
Just came down from the 10th floor. Really easy commute.
Yeah.
And pretty nice view up there,
Yeah,
too,
it
as well.
is.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. How was the traffic in the elevator?
It was tough.
So before we jump into your subject matter expertise, tell us a little bit of your background before you got into law and what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm a native of Decatur, Georgia. So I grew up watching Monica Kaufman. I wanted to be on TV. So those were my dreams growing up. So I went to Hampton University and majored in journalism with the hopes of being the next Monica Kaufman. And actually really enjoyed radio a lot more. So did that a while I was at Hampton. Ended up getting a job offer and looked at my student loan balance and said, this isn't going to work. So I need to find something else to do with this degree. And one of the benefits of going to a really small university is that professors take an interest in you. And I had a political science professor say, hey, you really should think about going to law school. So I did, and came back home and went to University of Georgia. And just thought, hey, with this journalism degree, I'm going to be a trial attorney. I'm going to rock it in the courtroom. And got a job with a firm in Midtown. That's all they did was civil litigation. And if you can imagine, it was anything but civil. So for someone like me who doesn't like conflict, it probably wasn't the best career choice. But I was able to see what happens in the courtroom and why you want to avoid that when it comes to your state. And so a lot of attorneys that practice in this practice area anyway, they end up going through something personal to where they understand the importance of having an estate plan, and that's exactly what happened to me. A family member got sick. We weren't necessarily dealing with death, but we were dealing with disability, and we just weren't in a position to help her. And so that's when I started, okay, I'm going to draft power of attorneys for my parents. I got to do some for myself. And it just really just transformed into, I need to be doing this for my community. I really need to be educating people on the importance of having a plan.
So it sounds like it just kind of found you.
It did. And I'm so grateful for that. I've been very,
awesome.
very happy.
So we got lots of questions to talk about, but right off the bat, let people know how would they find you? What's the best point of contact for you?
Our website is atlestateplanning.com, pretty easy to remember, atlestateplanning.com. And so we're on all the social networks under the Anderson Law Practice, so Facebook, Twitter, but you can always email us, info@atlestateplanning.com, or call 404-267-1377.
Perfect. We'll ask you that at the end of your segment here as well. Just want to let folks just waiting to get in touch with you, right? So talk to us about some common estate planning mistakes, people that they typically find themselves making.
The biggest one is not having one.
Mm.
That's the biggest mistake. So,
what do you attribute that to?
It could be a lot of things. I think the biggest thing for people is it's a fear of facing, I guess, their own mortality. I guess they don't want to talk about death. Yeah. Even though what we're talking about and what we're dealing with, it has to deal more with life than anything.
Yeah, life after death for those who are left,
Yeah, and dealing with what happens if you get sick before you pass away. So you could actually benefit from having this plan in place. So just not having the conversation, not having a plan is the biggest thing I see.
So the estate planning is not necessarily about the plan to give everything away.
That is an important piece of it. But the other important piece is if you become disabled or incompetent, who's going to make your legal, financial, and healthcare decisions for you? Now, that is something you can benefit from.
Yeah, it's an extension of the asset protection and management.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you don't make those choices,
somebody will for you.
Exactly. And it probably is not what you want it to be. So yeah.
What is probate and how can it be avoided, since we're speaking to that?
Yeah, so probate is the court process of us administering your assets after you pass away. So if you die with a will, or even if you die without a will, in the state of Georgia, your heirs are going to need to go through this court process. So one of the downsides that I see, and it is something that our practice does do, and we help families with this, there's a delay. It takes time to go through this process. The other thing is that creditors are first in line to get paid. So probate is all about making sure they get paid off. And then whatever's left goes to the family. So how can it be avoided? Proper planning. So, a lot of my clients who don't want their family to have to go through that process will do some kind of living trust. And we're able to avoid probate that way. You can also avoid probate by doing beneficiary designations on certain accounts. So there are a lot of ways to bypass that court process. Yeah.
So you don't, I'm hearing that you have to go through probate, or there's a way to bypass it.
There
as well?
is a way
so
to
bypass
bypass
it. So there's a 285 around.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
With proper planning. So that can be with the living trust. That can be with beneficiary designations. It can be a combination of those two things, which is what my practice kind of helps people with, figure out what's the best way to avoid that process.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned living trust. It's similar but different than a will. People use those interchangeably, and it's not, right?
It's not. So a lot of times people call and say, I have a trust, and I'm reviewing a last will and testament. So it's not the same thing. So the great thing with the trust, so probate is helping us administer those assets to the heirs. The reason why we don't have to go through probate if you have a trust is that we're doing all that hard work now for your family. So we're transferring title now to your trust.
It's like planning your vacation before you show up at the airport, right? You wouldn't just show up at the airport.
Yeah.
Where am I going to go? Yeah.
Right.
You like that one?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to have to use that.
Absolutely. Well, we have witnesses here, so be careful.
Right.
And this is recorded, too.
Right.
And if I had an attorney, well, never mind, yeah. So you mentioned families. Talk to us about some distinctions of planning for minor children versus your adult children.
Right. So there are some differences. With minor children, one of the biggest things is making sure we're naming the right legal guardians. So people that your kids actually like, right? And then making sure we're appointing them and that we're leaving them some instructions on how you want your kids to be raised. So a lot of times people think that naming legal guardians through a will is enough. And a lot of people assume that your legal guardians know how you want the kids to be raised, but we need to write that down. We need to leave basically long-term babysitter instructions for your legal guardians.
Some people need a short-term babysitter.
Yeah.
But, well, I just have to share with you real quick. I don't share this a lot, but a personal, just hearing what you're describing happened to me personally. My dad passed away to Mom at a very early age. There was nothing in place, nothing in place. And I remember very distinctly as a child sitting with my other brothers at a kitchen table in Miami with all the aunts and uncles, all the lawyers were at the table, and everything was just in disarray. There was a lot of conversation, and heated words were exchanged of who's going to take 4 teenage boys. There was no plan in place.
Wow.
You know, and shame on my father, but like you said, he was relatively young. You don't really think,
Right.
like, I'll do that down the road, right?
Exactly. It's never too early, and it's not a one and done thing. So a lot of people think I'm too young, or I don't have enough assets yet. You're never too young, and you're never too poor to have an estate plan, right? If you have people in your life that you love and care about, that's enough.
Right, yeah.
That's enough to move forward.
So talk to us about long-term care, because that's another piece to this, right?
Right.
For those folks that may be here extended period of time, but may not have all of their faculties or abilities, right? And their
Exactly.
income-earning opportunities.
Exactly. So you can have this amazing estate plan where you're leaving whatever it is you're leaving to your heirs, but if you haven't thought about what happens or how am I going to pay for care if I get sick, if I need to go to a facility, you're probably not going to have anything left to leave your heirs. So I always have that conversation, more so with my baby boomer clients. And they're wanting to have that conversation with me because they've been in a position where they might have cared for a parent, right? So what can I do to make sure that my kids don't have to go through what I just went through with my parents? So we're having that conversation about, okay, how are you going to pay for long-term care? What assets can we go ahead and protect? Because if you don't, or if you're not in a position to private pay for those facilities, and these facilities can be expensive, several $1,000s a month. So we've got to figure out how to protect your assets to be able to get you the federal benefits you need to be able to pay for this long-term care. So a lot of things we're doing is asset protection planning.
So, I mean, back to that, and I'm glad you brought that up because this conversation is usually one that we are having with our financial analyst.
Right.
So do you have a series, or do you have a partnership with an FA or a firm? How does that work?
Right. So as an estate planning attorney, I have relationships with financial advisors and CPAs. We just work closely together anyway.
So you don't do, you don't.
I'm not selling insurance.
Gotcha.
Right. So, but I can send you to someone who can possibly help you with
Gotcha.
that long-term care insurance. And then if you're not in a position to be able to get traditional long-term care insurance, we need to have the conversation. How can we legally protect your assets in case you get sick?
Gotcha.
Right.
So not only a subject matter expert, but also has those toolbox to utilize as well. So let our listeners one more time, let her know the best way to get in touch with you.
Our phone number is 404-267-1377, or you can email us at info@atlestateplanning.com.
Outstanding.
All right, Stephanie. So hang tight. We maybe have some follow-up questions here
Okay.
for you, but appreciate your that was free advice and knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she happens to be a BBA member.
Yeah,
On
we're
top
going
of
to
that.
talk about that
Yeah,
in just a
certainly.
moment. And as we close out the show, we always like to get a BBA story ready. Lock
Yeah.
it loaded, right? And a success story, or tell us your Buckhead business experience with the organization. Let's turn our attention now to Kat Ellis. As we mentioned, 20 years in marketing and over 10 years just for attorneys, right?
Not just for attorneys, but working with attorneys in various aspects.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just recently moved back to Atlanta from where?
From San Diego.
Orange County.
Okay.
Not Orange County.
Close to it.
Yeah, and that's actually a very common thought, but it's basically Los Angeles, Orange County, and San Diego.
And
Gotcha.
then Seattle, right?
A little geography here.
Right, yeah. We're radio guys. Yeah, we're not geography guys. And drop a couple of names of some sports figures you worked with out there.
Right, so I worked with Junior Seau, and most people have heard of him. He's in the Football Hall of Fame. I worked with Quentin Jammer. He was an excellent player on the Chargers, moved to the Broncos. Yay. I love the Chargers and the Broncos. And And he's actually moved on from the Broncos now, but I also worked with Jane Mitchell, who is very well known out in San Diego. She was sportscasting for
and journalist
20
for like
years.
20 years, yeah. All right. And,
a little soundtrack there.
Talk to us about, but in the past 6 years, you've been focusing on online marketing for SEO, and talk to us about that.
Well, and actually it's not specifically SEO, but I became very engaged with online marketing in 2010. And really realizing, I had actually been a retail store owner, and that was many years before that, but I had realized that listening to people who were owning small stores like I had, and realizing that, they were all talking about how they would never have a website, ever. Why would I have a website?
Yeah.
And seeing how that evolved.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone wants to have a website and should have a website. And then watching how online marketing was evolving, and, it was going from SEO to social media, now to digital marketing. And
Authority
really,
marketing and such, yeah.
Right, and really, where I'm at now, which is with Montina Portis at Creative Internet Authority.
That's the CIA we were talking about.
That's
the
it.
CIA.
Creative Internet, the other CIA.
Right, and our focus is on video marketing, which in my research and my knowledge, where I've come from, I know that video marketing is going to be the end game, because we have done everything up until now. And it's only, it's very logical that video marketing is going to be the end, because and I'm saying this to comfort people, because it has been a very quick trip, right? Where a lot of people are really overwhelmed. And the great thing about video marketing, though, is essentially we're all super comfortable with it. We've been watching TV for years. And what is really happening is that we're evolving TV out, and the online world is going to become our TV. So we're marketing specifically for lawyers, which is a perfect group to do this video marketing. I was talking to Stephanie about it. And is that, because if you think about it, one of our favorite shows and movies are law-engaged movies. So we're talking, Law and Order. We're all really engaged in this kind of thing. So to be a lawyer and have a story of where you came from, why you came into being a lawyer, where you're going with that, how you have a relationship and feel like you have a passion for this, and putting that on video is so powerful.
Yeah, if a pictures are worth 1,000 words, then video is just as much. And the other thing is, as we all know, we do business with those people we know, like, and trust.
Exactly.
And the more we know about the backstory, that's why I say it all the time, the E30s or E60 and 30 for 30s and behind the music and unsung Hollywood. And Oprah's, her format is about the story.
Exactly.
Hearing that backstory, and we have a greater appreciation for that individual. So that's what resonates with the humanity of those consumers, and that's where they want to put their dollars, with those people they trust or they like.
Right.
Or they think they know.
And seeing someone, you see who they are, their personality, their culture. Is it a fit? And why that's such a benefit to everybody involved, win-win on both sides, for the lawyer doing the video and for the user, is that we're eliminating all that time. We're getting qualified people to your door,
and involving all the senses, as much of the sense of the individual that you can involve. The smell, taste, touch. Even when we eat with our eyes first before we bite into it. If it looks good, we almost make it taste good too, subconsciously. So it's very important, like you said. Video is
speaking of video and eating, that's the big explosion of all the Food Channel cooking shows or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's go back to the CIA, which is
Creative Internet Authority.
Right? You promised to share the secret sauce of.
Yeah, you did promise that. We heard it.
For, what's making it work for lawyers specifically?
And I think what I was just saying is really the secret sauce, but, is that lawyers have a story to tell. They got into their profession because they have a story to tell. They're passionate about what they're doing, and they're very focused. Most lawyers know exactly where they're going. They're very well spoken. They're used to being in front of people, if they're going into court. And that's, a lot of that is the secret sauce, but it's really about how we're going about this, the process, because it's not, anyone can make a video.
Yeah.
And you can make a really bad video, and a
Nobody
lot
knows,
of people make a lot of bad videos on their own.
Yeah.
But even a bad video, if you just make the video and plop it somewhere, it's not doing you any good. You need the marketing that goes along with the making the video. And we do high quality production. We do editing. We add music. We do, and then we do the marketing.
And stuff. And that's the other piece is that marketing, right? Because you can produce a video, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the secret sauce of Google and analytics a lot of that ties into their web crawlers looking for those videos, the presence, and that SEO, right? Yes or yes? Or?
Yeah, exactly. And, video is capable of giving SEO, and some people don't have that understanding.
Yeah,
but it's crawling, and the way, it's because of our technology and the way things are evolving that we're able to do what we do, and thanks to Google and thanks to Facebook. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if a lot of people may not have heard this, but of course I'm on top of this because it's my industry, but Mark Zuckerberg just told viewers at his big conference about 2 weeks ago now, he said, quote, "We're entering this new golden age of videos online." And he was saying that he predicts in 5 years that video will be all-consuming on Facebook.
And who's this dude, Mark Zuckerberg? What's he?
Yeah, he's not
I hear his
really
name,
anybody.
everybody drops his name,
A whole bunch of people help him build this thing.
So, Kat, what was the best way for folks to reach out to you?
So the best way to get us is at creativeinternetauthority.com. And of course, you can Google us. We will be found.
You better, yeah.
Right.
All right, so thanks for being on the show. Stay tuned. Just remember, we're going to do some follow-up here in just a moment. So thanks again for joining us on the Buckhead Business Show, by the way, which you're listening to, sponsored in part by the Buckhead-Business-Association. That's buckhead-business.org. And now, as we promised, our anchor man has been sitting patiently waiting to bring this all around. Mark Johnson, IBOC Consulting. And you're going to talk to us. You're going to educate us on the state of identity fraud in America. You're going to hopefully enlighten us on what's happening, but hopefully some solutions as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you're a little bit of your background, 20 years in the area of international and domestic adoptions, became an entrepreneur, consulting for nonprofits. The past 10 years you worked to educate businesses, and you speak on this topic as well, right? So
that's correct, yes.
So what's on the short list of what should we know about what's going on, the current status of identity theft?
Well, it is the largest crime in the world and the fastest growing crime. When people hear that it has outpaced illegal drugs about 10 years ago, what the criminals make there, people are amazed. And it is still the fastest growing. In the last 12 years, it is the number one complaint for the State Department from the general public of issues ranging from IRS to credit card to anything that happens financially, but also medically.
Yeah, the medical records, and
that's huge.
It's almost like you can't tune into the news and not hear about some type of breach, right?
Yeah, 10 years ago when I would start speaking on this, and I'm very passionate about it, because your biggest targets are minor children, and then the other end of the demographics, which are retirees. Right. They're the biggest targets. And it's what we know and deal less with because of the financial aspects. Yeah. No 5-year-old has a bank account.
Right, yeah.
But what we're finding out is that is the largest target, and you're not going to know if there's an identity breach or fraud with a minor child probably until you go help them get a loan for a car, or you get financial support to go to college and can't get it.
You think about it, though. You think about it. Those are the gullible, or I mean, they're the kids. That's all they know is the technology, and that's one of the reasons why it's the fastest growing and will always be the fastest growing, is because technology is right in the middle of it. Access to every information.
Exactly.
And for the youth, that's all they know. They depend on it so much, and the elderly, they're learning it. So you have a learning curve on the elderly where they have their seasoned and experience in life, but they're just getting into this thing like a little child, and the child is not seasoned and experienced with life, but they're very, they know how to utilize these things, but they're opening up all these apps, which is opening up a lot of their giving a lot of their privacy away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On that note, for example, in about a year ago, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield out of Indianapolis lost 80 million records, and that crossed the United States. Now, in those records, it's one thing to have your credit card information stolen. The banks and the credit card companies pretty much take care of that, which is only about 13% of the problem, by the way.
Wow.
Your financial, people think, oh, man, and when it hits my wallet, then it's a problem. No. The financial side of it is only 13%. 44% is medical identity theft. And it's the most devastating, and it's what you hear least about. You probably haven't even heard very much about the Anthem Blue Cross.
Has anything to do with HIPAA? Probably so. It can't.
Well, it's interesting because in the 80s, HIPAA said doctors' offices and dentist offices, they don't need your Social Security number. You tell me the last time you went to a new doctor or your doctor and said, I need your Social Security number. Well, they don't even, it's not required by law. As a matter of fact, they're saying you don't need that information, but people are threatened basically to give it in order to get medical services.
Yeah.
So by them acquiring this medical data, it's not so much for the medical records, it's for the identity.
Yeah, let me tell you why that's so devastating. If I get your credit card information, for example, I may get your name, address, and maybe a bank account. Chances are not, but I'll get that information. I can do some damage. If I get your medical information, and what was lost with Anthem was name, address, serial number, income, place where you work, medical identity information, children's information, ages, Social Security numbers, etc. I could ruin you 10 times over if I had that information. Now, here's the thing to understand. When there is a breach, and it is so catastrophic, they don't want your money. The thieves of the biggest crime in the world don't want your money. They want your information. Everybody listening to this show, everybody sitting at this table, your information is out there where you do not want it. And I underscore that twice. It is already out there. It may not be fraudulent yet,
right,
but somebody has it, and it's probably not your neighbor. It's probably somebody in the Eastern Bloc, somebody in Russia, somebody in China, whatever, that eventually combines that information, your non-public information, sells it over and over and over again. That's how they make their money. Eventually, it becomes fraudulent. As a trickle-down theory, it becomes fraudulent. And then that is when we react, which is too late.
Yeah. With all those calls that I get automated or whatever, you get a new call every week on your phone how did they get my number?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and what I heard,
something to think about.
What I heard years ago to seniors is they figure, or certain people say, I just don't do anything online. So I don't do any transactions whatsoever online, and they think they're safe. But like you said, all those offline records, somebody is migrating those to their online platform.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's not, you say, well, I shred everything. I don't use my mailbox. I go to the post office. Those are all good things.
Yeah, talk to us, because we just got a few minutes left. Talk to us about some preventive measures or what folks can do to circumvent this if possible, or some.
I think the best example I have is 10 years ago when I started talking about this, and I would ask people, what are you doing, or how familiar are you with identity fraud? Maybe a half a dozen hands would go up. Right. Now when I ask that question, virtually every hand goes up. Yeah. And the fact is that there's nothing you can do to stop it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. What you can do preventively, though, It's like cancer. Cancer knows no boundaries. And our biggest weapon in our arsenal against cancer is early detection.
Okay.
So if we figured out early that there's a problem, there's a chance that we can eradicate it or at least stop it. So same thing with identity theft. Information, looking at your bank statements on a regular basis, getting your credit reports, looking at your credit reports, knowing what's on there, seeing if there's any drastic change from time to time are two of the easiest things you can do.
Are there services you can enroll with that will give you these kind of red alerts? I mean, we had a breach on our corporate account here, and I don't want to get too much minutia, but there's a cap where they're not liable to return the money on a commercial account versus a personal account.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, listen, the financial side of this is the least of our problems. It really is
It's
the least
that
of our
identity, going back to the identity,
And if you were born, if you ever went to school, if you ever...
So for those listening that were born, yeah,
Everybody else
you're in this place.
don't
Yeah.
even need
Yeah,
to
just
pay
enjoy
any
it.
attention.
That's right. Your information's out there. It is out there right now. So to do those precautionary things of, on a daily basis, really figuring out. I look at my income, my bank statement every day. I
And you
want to
can
see if
probably
there's
have
something
like
on there.
mobile alerts or whatever too. Or,
I do.
Stuff. I've heard the newest. What's happening more recently in the news is a pet identity being stolen. Have you heard about this?
No, I hadn't heard about that.
That's
yet.
because I just made it up.
Wow.
That was a test.
I had everybody on the edge of their seat. Stay tuned for the next episode. Yeah. So Mark, what are some resources? How would folks get in touch with you and you're available for speaking as well?
Yes. My email is IBOC Inc. That's IBOC Inc. @gmail.com. That's
Okay.
my consulting company.
Okay.
My phone number is 678-333-1250.
And who do you typically speak in front of? Organizations, nonprofits, or?
I just spoke at Pickens County Chamber of Commerce. I do a lot of corporations,
Okay.
companies that will have me come in and speak to their groups, banks I've spoken to, church groups. You know what? Anybody who listen, really, because people just don't take it seriously. They don't understand the magnitude of what the problem really is.
It's something we can't be reminded too often about, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, pleasure's good to see you again.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank you.
being on the show.
Most definitely.
And as we promised, Stephanie, do you have a BBA, either story or tell us about your Buckhead business?
Well,
Experience.
Testimonial.
Okay.
I've met some amazing people. And it's been just a huge range, I guess, of business owners that are members of the organization. So it's been awesome. It really has been it's been great to be able to connect with people in such an easy way in my community that are small business owners. So it's been awesome.
And maybe the best deal in town, right?
I think so, especially for the young bucks.
Yeah.
So,
The young bucks, certainly, yeah.
yeah.
And you don't have to live in Buckhead to be
Right.
in it.
No,
Or if
you
you want to
don't.
do business with businesses, people have to be reminded that over 40% of the revenues of Atlanta are generated here in this
Right.
space.
That's
So,
62-year history and still going strong.
yep.
And just go to buckhead-business.org. We'll see you next time on the Buckhead Business Show.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association.